For thousands of years, the Himalayas have acted as Asia's great water tower, stretching across multiple countries and containing some of the largest concentrations of ice outside the polar regions. These mountains feed rivers that support nearly 2 billion people. The glaciers of the Himalayas supply water to some of the world's most important river systems, including the Indus, Ganges, Brahmaputra, Yangtze, Mekong, and Yellow rivers. Today, this critical source of fresh water is becoming the center of an increasingly important geopolitical competition. The Himalayan region contains tens of thousands of glaciers spread across some of the highest mountains on Earth. These glaciers act as natural reservoirs, storing water during colder periods and gradually releasing it through seasonal melting. This process has supported agriculture, industry, ecosystems, and human settlements for centuries. Entire civilizations have developed around river systems that originate in these mountains. Climate change is altering this balance. Scientific studies show that many Himalayan glaciers are retreating as temperatures rise across the region. While the rate of retreat varies by location, the overall trend is clear. Glacial ice that accumulated over centuries is shrinking. Initially, this can increase river flow as more meltwater enters downstream systems. However, over the long term, continued ice loss may reduce the natural storage capacity that supports water supplies during dry seasons. This challenge would be significant on its own. However, it is occurring in one of the most politically complex regions in the world. The Himalayas sit at the intersection of several major powers, including China, India, Pakistan, Nepal, and Bhutan. Many of Asia's largest rivers cross national borders, meaning decisions made upstream can directly affect countries located downstream. Water has always been a strategic resource, but its importance increases dramatically when populations grow and climate conditions become less predictable. Asia is home to more than half of the world's population. Agriculture, manufacturing, energy production, and urban development all depend heavily on reliable fresh water supplies. As demand increases, governments are paying closer attention to control over water infrastructure. One of the most important developments has been the construction of dams and hydropower projects. Across the Himalayan region, governments have invested heavily in large-scale water management infrastructure. These projects generate electricity, regulate flooding, support irrigation, and provide economic development. Hydropower is particularly attractive because it offers a renewable source of energy that can reduce dependence on fossil fuels. China has become a central player in this story. The Tibetan Plateau, often called the roof of the world, serves as the source of many major Asian rivers. As the upstream nation on several important waterways, China possesses significant geographic advantages. Over recent decades, Beijing has invested heavily in hydropower projects and water infrastructure throughout Western China. The Yarlung-Tsangpo River provides one example. This river originates in Tibet before flowing into India, where it becomes the Brahmaputra. China has developed hydropower facilities along parts of the river and announced plans for additional projects. Indian officials closely monitor these developments because changes in river management upstream may affect water flows downstream. It is important to distinguish between legitimate infrastructure development and claims that rivers can simply be switched off entirely. Large rivers carry enormous volumes of water, and international water systems are influenced by rainfall, snowmelt, geography, and seasonal patterns. However, dams can affect timing, storage, and flow management. During periods of tension, concerns often arise regarding how upstream infrastructure might influence downstream water security. India faces its own challenges as both an upstream and downstream country. The nation depends heavily on Himalayan water supplies for agriculture, industry, and urban populations. At the same time, India manages river systems that continue into neighboring countries. Water security, therefore, occupies an increasingly important place within India's strategic planning. Pakistan provides another example of how water and geopolitics intersect. Much of Pakistan's agriculture depends on the Indus River system, which originates in the Himalayas. The Indus Waters Treaty, signed in 1960, has survived multiple wars and political crises between India and Pakistan. The treaty is often cited as one of the most successful international water-sharing agreements ever negotiated. However, growing water demand and climate pressures continue to test the system. Nepal and Bhutan also occupy strategically important positions because of their mountainous terrain and hydropower potential. Both countries possess significant water resources relative to their populations. Hydropower exports have become important components of economic development strategies, particularly in Bhutan. The geopolitical importance of water extends beyond drinking supplies. Agriculture remains the largest consumer of fresh water across much of Asia. Rice production, wheat cultivation, and other staple crops depend heavily on reliable irrigation systems. Any disruption to water availability can affect food security, economic stability, and social conditions simultaneously. Energy production adds another layer of complexity. Hydropower provides significant portions of electricity generation in several countries throughout the region. As governments seek to expand renewable energy capacity, additional dam construction remains attractive. Yet every new project can create concerns among downstream neighbors regarding environmental impacts and water management practices. Climate change increases uncertainty further. Scientists project that many parts of Asia may experience more extreme weather patterns, including droughts, floods, and unpredictable rainfall. Water infrastructure designed around historical climate conditions may face new challenges in the future. Governments are increasingly planning for scenarios involving both water scarcity and sudden flooding. Diplomatic relations often become intertwined with water management. Data sharing, flood warnings, environmental monitoring, and infrastructure planning all require some degree of international cooperation. During periods of strong diplomatic relations, these arrangements can function effectively. During periods of tension, however, water issues may become additional sources of mistrust. Some analysts describe this situation as a sovereignty challenge. Countries naturally seek control over resources within their borders. Yet river systems do not respect political boundaries. Actions taken in one country may produce consequences hundreds or even thousands of miles away. Balancing national interests with regional stability remains one of the most difficult aspects of transboundary water management. Technology is becoming increasingly important in this competition. Satellites, remote sensing systems, weather forecasting models, and hydrological monitoring networks provide governments with better information about water flows and environmental changes. Access to accurate data is often just as important as access to physical infrastructure. Despite the challenges, outright conflict over water remains relatively rare compared with cooperation. History shows that countries sharing river systems often find practical solutions because all parties depend on predictable outcomes. Water is unique because disruption tends to harm everyone involved. As a result, negotiation frequently proves more beneficial than confrontation. Nevertheless, the stakes continue rising. Population growth, industrial development, urbanization, climate change, and infrastructure expansion are all increasing pressure on freshwater resources. Governments increasingly view water security as part of national security planning rather than simply environmental policy. The phrase hydrohegemony is sometimes used by analysts to describe situations where upstream countries possess disproportionate influence over shared water systems. Geography naturally creates advantages for some nations and vulnerabilities for others. Managing these imbalances peacefully requires transparency, communication, and effective international agreements. The retreat of Himalayan glaciers is therefore more than an environmental story. It is a story about energy, food, industry, diplomacy, and security. The mountains, often called the Third Pole, are becoming increasingly important to the future of Asia's economic and political stability. For centuries, the Himalayas quietly supplied water that sustained civilizations across an entire continent. Today, as glaciers retreat and competition increases, the region is emerging as one of the most strategically significant freshwater landscapes on Earth. The future may not be defined by who controls the most territory, but by who can secure the resources that make modern civilization possible. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the forces shaping our future, be sure to explore our other documentaries examining the technologies redefining modern civilization. And if you want to keep exploring the biggest questions about science, power, and the future of humanity, make sure to subscribe to the channel and join us for the next journey into the unknown.